Ireland has undergone a remarkable economic transformation in the past few decades, but you'll be surprised to know that a majority of the population is actually considering leaving the country and settling elsewhere.
Prices are rising! So are we! Prices are rising! So are we!
While migration certainly isn't something new for Ireland, the surge in departures from what is ostensibly one of the world's wealthiest countries is both puzzling and concerning.
All the stuff, there's always 5 or 10p on them now. You never can get anything at their usual price. So it just seems to be getting worse every day.
So, why are people so keen to leave the richest country per capita in the world? And could the mass emigration signal an impending crisis for Ireland in the future? This is why people are leaving Ireland. Ireland has a storied history of emigration, stretching back centuries. For years, waves of Irish citizens left their homeland in search of better opportunities elsewhere. Despite gaining independence from the UK, Ireland continued to grapple with poverty, driving even more people to leave, a cycle that certainly didn't help the nation's struggling economy. The 1950s and 1970s saw massive outflows of Irish citizens, many of whom relocated to countries like the UK, the United States, Australia, and New Zealand. These mass exits were often propelled by economic crises and scarce job opportunities, leaving little room for optimism at home. However, the narrative shifted dramatically in the 1990s. Joining the European Union ushered in a transformative era for Ireland. Open trade with EU member states and Ireland's strategic tax policies attracted a host of investors, especially from the tech industry. In a relatively short span, Ireland transitioned from an economically challenged state to one experiencing rapid growth and development. Yet, even as Ireland continues to prosper, many citizens are finding it increasingly difficult to make ends meet and survive, which has pressured and fueled a desire for many citizens to leave the country and start a new life somewhere else. And the only question left to ask is, why? While in the past many were forced out by famines and economic crises, young people in recent years have been drawn to jobs abroad or the freedom of living in more open societies. But lately, things seem to be taking a different direction. Rather than the lure of foreign opportunities, the young people complain that the soaring cost of living is slowly pricing them out of their own country. More than 7 in 10 young people aged between 18 and 24 are considering moving abroad because they believe they would enjoy a much better quality of life there. Ireland has the highest costs in the European Union on the back of some of the fastest growing rents across Europe. At the same time, the number of people owning their home continues to decline. Property prices now surpass the peak of the Celtic Tiger boom in 2007, with the current housing costs being 84% higher than other European countries. Ireland's current housing situation hasn't gone unnoticed and has actually faced a lot of criticism. European nations, together with multinational corporations, have expressed concerns regarding this, which threatens foreign direct investment and potential sources of tax revenue. Things are so bad that student unions across Ireland have referred to the accommodation crisis as an emergency. There have been reports of students being homeless, living in tents, sharing rooms with several people, or having to couch surf because they are unable to pay rent.
My first year of college, I was homeless. I was going between houses trying to find a place to sleep, and then for the last 3 years, I've been squatting.
Our textbooks, we have to pay our contribution fees, we have to pay for laptops, accommodation. We have to pay so much money, and they have the audacity to say that it's free.
It's no surprise then that a large number of those who choose to relocate are young, mostly in their 20s or 30s. An overwhelming number tend to be well educated, with an overrepresentation of university graduates, which clearly is not a good sign. If not mitigated, the high levels of qualified people leaving Ireland could have a disastrous effect on the country's economy. When people leave a country, they lower the nation's labour force and consumer spending. If the country they are leaving has an oversaturated labour force, this can result in the positive effect of relieving unemployment rates. On the other hand, the countries receiving the emigrants tend to benefit from more available workers, who also contribute to the economy by spending money. And so, in this case, Ireland stands to lose a lot as more people continue to leave. There aren't many financial motivations to draw them back home if they do decide to leave, meaning the skills they gain aren't brought back. And who can blame them? As the current unemployment rate is hovering somewhere around the 13% mark, but that value more than doubles for those under 25. And while unemployment overall bounced back after the financial crisis, by the time the pandemic struck, employment rates for people in their 20s and early 30s, despite outperforming other EU nations, had still not fully recovered. And their real earnings were no better than that of people born in the 1960s and 1970s. And the government isn't making it much easier. As the government's recent move to cut grants for third-level education has seriously affected those looking for work. This means that students in low-income families are forced to apply for low-skilled jobs rather than gaining qualifications that help them climb up the employment ladder. And when it comes to master's degrees, financial support has been cut off entirely. Beyond financial and social factors, there's a crucial issue being overlooked in the narrative of Ireland's emigration: the connection between quality of life and mental well-being. Recent data reveals a troubling trend. 50% of young adults between 18 and 24 state that the current cost of living crisis has adversely affected their mental health. Similarly, a substantial portion in this age group admit to struggling financially, citing heightened expenses in areas like education and public transport. This isn't merely about making ends meet. Many are grappling with mental health challenges stemming from accommodation issues and the financial strain of day-to-day expenses.
My brain is so tired to think about this, and I can't study. I can't. And all of my parents, they don't know what I'm living here, because if we are here living this way and our parents in Brazil, they know what we are living here, they call, please come back home, and we are here, we expend a lot of money.
These concerns are compelling many Irish citizens to seek better prospects abroad. Countries like Australia, Germany, and the United States have become popular destinations for Irish emigrants. The allure is clear. These nations often promise not only improved job opportunities and competitive salaries, but also a higher quality of life. This encompasses better healthcare, superior educational opportunities, and an enhanced standard of living overall. Interestingly, there's been a marked surge in the number of Irish individuals moving to Britain. Given its proximity and the absence of significant migration barriers, Britain serves as a convenient choice for many. This trend, however, might be indicative of a deeper issue. The preference for places of least resistance suggests that many emigrants might not possess the resources for more ambitious relocations. The very fact that individuals are opting for the easiest exit route underscores the gravity of the underlying crisis in Ireland. While expensive housing, extensive commutes, and overburdened health services might seem like universal challenges, Ireland's unique history of underinvestment and planning missteps sets it apart on the global stage. Consequently, for many, Ireland is becoming a less appealing place to call home.
Milk has gone up, everything has gone up, and I think it's about time we stood up something to the government.
Yet, the option to seek opportunities elsewhere isn't universally accessible. Certainly, some aspire to find better living conditions abroad, but others, especially in working class or rural communities, can't even consider emigration. The rising cost of living is pushing these individuals deeper into poverty. There's a growing sentiment that an entire generation is being let down. Unfortunately, the gravity of this situation seems lost on the nation's leadership. Such large-scale migration can profoundly shape Ireland's future, possibly leaving it bereft of a vibrant young workforce. It's not that people are eager to leave, they simply feel they have no other option. It's high time the government took decisive action, ensuring that the youth aren't left behind amidst this unfolding crisis. Representatives from Ireland's youth organisation have expressed concerns at findings which show how much of an impact the cost of living crisis is having on young people in Ireland, and it's calling for action from the government to prevent more and more young people from moving abroad. There is a real fear from the youth about what the future holds for them. Many say they're struggling to make a living, and the declining quality of life is driving them to consider a future outside of Ireland.
One of my friends, she lives in Blanchardstown, so she's commuting about 2 hours on the bus every day, and that takes up a huge time of her commute because we have 9 a.m. lectures, so she would have to get up at maybe 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning just to be on time for the lectures, and that's if there's no public transport delays.
They feel like the leaders need to show them that they are valued and not left out of the conversation on the soaring cost of living. The government says it is acutely aware of the effect that the cost of living is having on families, businesses, and the most vulnerable. In recognition of these ongoing challenges, the government has recently agreed on a new €1.2 billion package of measures to put money back into people's pockets. One would think that this is the solution to all their problems, but surprisingly, it doesn't seem to make the people optimistic. Opposition politicians and social groups have repeatedly criticized these measures as not good enough and have called for other measures to help ease the burden further. They are calling on the government to take a different approach to tackling the situation. They believe that the government can begin by introducing an immediate rent freeze and a roadmap to reduce Irish mortgage interest rates to the EU average. Aside from that, they could also take comprehensive action to make education free and support pay increases for workers across the economy in line with the rising cost of living, amongst other things. Their requests are all out there, but is there a chance that any of it will be taken into consideration? Unless the government reevaluates their short-sighted policies, young people will continue to abandon Ireland in droves, leaving the country's future looking very grim.